anyways, I will go on to the comments because there are 55 of them and everybody will be listening for a while. Under the new Unlock Michigan regulations, I understand that from our attorney via Dr. Maleko that we do not have to read in entirety anonymous comments. I can summarize them. There are a couple of them here, so I have quickly summarized them. Is everybody ready? Nathan Gabrish of Dearborn. I'm writing to express my views on the resumption of face-to-face school. I have 4 children in Dearborn schools representing elementary, middle, and high school. I appreciate that this is a difficult decision to make and that many people are hard at work planning and trying to make decisions with imperfect and incomplete information. I know that the board, the administration, and the teachers are guided by what they believe are in the best interests of our children, and I am grateful for that. With that said, I believe it is past time to refocus our approach and work on making virtual learning better for everyone, as opposed to putting so much emphasis on resuming face-to-face school. While the factors that put us here in the first place are only worsening. I say this for the following reasons. Number 1, cases of COVID-19 are spiking across the country and more importantly in our local community. Number 2, the prospect of a second larger wave seems all but inevitable at this point given the increase both here and abroad. Number 3, we have had 36 cases of infected individuals across the school buildings, both staff and students, with 7 occurring in the last week, according to the district's own reporting. Given the above, it's hard to imagine that in-person schooling will last very long before we again have to revert back to virtual only or simply plow ahead regardless of infection rates. We would all love to return to life prior to COVID-19, but you can't ignore a virus and beat it with the power of positive thinking. We can either continue to grieve the loss and move forward as best we can in the current reality. As long as we keep treating virtual school as a stopgap measure and plan with the pretense that face-to-face school will resume in the near future, we won't put the effort into making the virtual experience better for teachers, students, and parents. I hope we can avoid simply kicking the can down the road every 2 weeks. At the very least, we should set some specific thresholds around local infection rates that dictate if, when we can resume in-person classes. Without that kind of information, it is difficult for many parents to choose between in-person or the virtual academy, as we can't know what is viewed as acceptable risk by the school board. Ms. Teresa Gallivan of Farmington Hills. I'm writing to you as a Michigan teacher and as an advocate for your teachers, students, and community. This is a global pandemic we are experiencing. Let's be very clear about that. Sending our students and teachers back to school for face-to-face instruction at this time is dangerous. Please remember you are charged with, above all, the safety of your students and community. At this moment, numbers of COVID cases are not decreasing. In fact, they are increasing. By continuing to send students and teachers back into the physical classrooms, COVID cases will rise, people will get sick, and people will die. Please do not allow our blood to be on your hands. Mary Gladstone Highland of Dearborn. Hello, DPS board members. I am writing to urge you not to reopen schools at this point. As you know, the state numbers are higher than ever, and Michiganders are feeling COVID fatigue, which is causing them to have riskier and riskier behaviors. My family does not feel that it is safe to reopen, and we trust you to maintain the remote education as is. We know that you have the students' and teachers' safety at heart, and that will not cave to political pressure. You will not cave to political pressure. I watched all of the 4 hours plus of the meeting a few weeks ago and felt comforted by the fact that you chose to remain remote for the time being. Moving to in-person instruction would force us into VLP, which we intentionally did not choose because we look forward to going back to school when it is safe. And we trust that you would keep the schools remote until that time. 2020 has been a crazy year for everyone, And all we want for our child is that they have the most continuity possible. Below are the reasons that we do not feel it is safe to open school at this time. We do not feel it is safe to start in-person school yet because Dearborn has the highest COVID cases of any suburb in the county. In fact, we have 1,504 more cases currently. We do not feel it is safe because we are at the beginning of the cold and flu season, and we do not know yet how that will affect this pandemic. We do not feel it is safe because children do spread the disease. We do not feel it is safe because schools that return to in-person instruction are experiencing outbreaks. Please do not force us to uproot our son from his teacher to appease parents who do not want to recognize the safety hazard. This outbreak is horrible for parents and families, but our child's health is more important than any of the inconveniences we experience. Mrs. Molinaro writes, I wish to thank the board for continuing to make the difficult decisions that keep our students and teachers and community safe. With the alarming increase in COVID cases in the state and in the city, it is vital that we continue to make wise, safety decisions. Continuing the remote learning is the only way to accomplish safety for all involved. If schools open prematurely, students will suffer from the inconsistency that comes from frequent disruptions in instruction when faced with quarantine during an outbreak. It is far wiser to continue with consistent instruction through remote learning at this time and in the near future. Joanne Nabha of Dearborn writes, I write to you tonight to speak out on issues relating to members of the Dearborn staff community who feel undervalued, unrepresented, and forgotten amongst this district. The paraprofessionals. Parapros are vital to the day-to-day running of a classroom. They are not just assistants to teachers, but foster relationships with students and families that bridge the gap between schools and the community. Parapros as classroom managers work with students one-on-one during classroom instruction, perform activities such as printing and preparing educational materials, assist with situations that almost nobody can say they should endure. Their selflessness during this pandemic has indeed gone unrecognized. I was contacted by a dear friend of mine who shared her concerns to me in confidence because this district has created a culture of fear amongst its staff that many members feel they need to reach out to parents and advocates to help lift their voices and be heard rather than speak out and possibly be blacklisted. Promises were made to the parapros in this district by members of this administration, and not one promise has been fulfilled. All the while, other staff members who are under the same conditions as parapros have received their incentives. Stipends were promised but never received. Why? What are we waiting for? A staff that feels unappreciated can only last so long. We have already seen firsthand how amazing teachers leave this district as a direct result of the neglect they face. Are the parapros next? I will be the first to say that if the parapros leave the schools in this district, quality of education will suffer tremendously. Their efforts, their care of students, their ability to connect with some of the most needy students is amazing. Their ability to connect with some of the most needy students is amazing. It is time we fulfill the needs of the parapros, hear them out. Another issue that was brought to my attention was the way schools are handling the cleaning of frequently touched surfaces. If we want to move children and staff safely back into schools, we need to be doing more. The entire process is severely lacking, from eyewitness accounts said to be hazardous. Mind you, all this being said is not to attack the custodial staff or engineers. Actually, what was exactly mentioned was that because the process, including supplies being given, is grossly limited, their cleaning practices are directly harming these individuals. The district's mitigation plan was approved last week. That's great. But what happens when the practices and procedures you have directly stated in your plan are not being implemented effectively? What happens when the very people who will be at the root of implementing these procedures leave because we do not do what we promised them we would do at the beginning of this pandemic. I will not name names, but these people know who they are and what they promised. Now is the time to put your money where your mouth is and ensure that parapros are cared for, because they spend their entire careers taking care of our students. Thank you. Rebecca Boyce of Dearborn. Where is the data? This decision to bring students into the classroom needs to be based on data. Wayne County Health Department has determined most cities in Wayne County to be at the highest risk level. Their recommendation is that schools not open for face-to-face learning. We need to heed the warnings and remain remote until January. Parents and teachers need peace of mind to function and learn. We cannot move forward when we are constantly in a state of panic. It's like carrying around an invisible backpack full of stress and anxiety, making it prohibitive to learn. Sammy Baker of Dearborn writes, please strongly reconsider the closure of in-person learning labs. It is disturbing enough to see young children glued to a computer screen for over 4 hours a day. Adding more time to this is seriously concerning. As soon as the decision was made to make the labs optional, every teacher I know proceeded to cancel their reading groups and change them to a virtual format. Please keep in mind that on the elementary level, learning labs are what the teachers use to meet with the reading groups. Therefore, every student is required to attend. These groups are not optional. My 5-year-old is getting too much screen time as it is. If it is not possible to have the students meet in small groups anymore, then cancel them altogether, because you are doing a disservice to your students. Please know that there are parents within the district who are committed to helping their children succeed in school, but not to the detriment of their cognitive and visual health. Mrs. Carrie Doran of Dearborn. I think the reopening committee needs to come up with better plans. They should have teachers and parents involved in coming up with a plan that works. The one plan that has lower elementary starting first doesn't work when you have another son or daughter in upper elementary. How are you going to get them to school and still get your other one online? I'm not leaving my son home alone while I take the other one to school. Was this taken into consideration? If you are going to have elementary start, then all of elementary needs to start at the same time. Mrs. Amanda Monahan of Dearborn. Numbers in this area are consistently increasing, making a safe return very daunting and frightening for our students. I am concerned that the in-person learning labs are equally unsafe in a different way. I fear for the emotional well-being of our students who are returning to the classroom for live labs and are then forced to remain socially distant from their peers and teachers. I am afraid that this is causing undue trauma to our kids, and when the kids are learning on the computer during this time anyways. I do not feel that the benefit of having them in the classroom outweighs the cost to their emotional health and possible physical risks. Jean Johnson of Dearborn. Remote virtual learning is working. I have data to back this up. Attendance is better than it has ever been. Students are logging on in time every day to the well-planned lessons of their teachers. Let's take the resources we have and make something of this virtual learning. Never in history have we been given a gift like the technology we have today. I fully support staying remote virtual until January because it is working. Kids are excited to come to class and learn. Saying anything other is just a cop-out excuse for not trying. Keep everyone safe. Use the resources we have to educate. A concerned parent and citizen writes, and I'm going to summarize this because it's anonymous, here's their actual words. I listened in for the entire board meeting, and the information you are being provided is concerning. What elementary does not have 26 to 30 plus students? This year, one of my elementary children has over 28 kids in their class. Skipping ahead, what elementary school room allows for 6-foot social distancing even at half capacity? Next summary. I am also wondering at how will 2 more weeks provide you the data that should be used for learning from learning labs. Okay, there's some discussion about NWEA testing. It's totally different from learning clubs or class time. What was troubling is that during every drop off for NWEA testing, there were unsupervised children waiting to be let in without face masks on. Next summary. I understand that they have actually shut down some of the learning labs as of last week because COVID spread concerns. Thus, they did not increase the use, but decrease it. How can we expect children, especially elementary, to remember about wearing them when even our own board member on the February 12th meeting at part 6, 5552, coughing with his face mask on, not covering him properly. If you are going to base your information on surveys, can we have surveys that provide you with better data and not leading questions? Even basic information was poorly communicated and not included. For example, I received the link to the survey on 9/29. I completely understand that the way that students return will not be set in stone, but I believe you are doing a disservice to the community in the order of operations in which you are using some of the data you choose for use. Do parents understand that in-person will not look like it did before? Many of my family are currently teaching in other districts in person. In all settings, in-person, hybrid or not, bring other challenges that many Dearborn parents have not yet considered. I have a strong distaste for the virtual learning. We spend a lot of time, a lot of what should be our free time, helping our children catch up on work they are expected to do independently. However, this does not mean that in-person learning is the right, better thing to do. I simply ask you to continue to be strong. Lead Dearborn as one of the Michigan school districts that decides to be leaders of science and education, not weakness and tired of doing what isn't easy. Thank you for your leadership and attention to my comments and concerns. Mr. Connor Nope of Dearborn writes, the city of Dearborn itself needs to implement harsher guidelines on large groups and masks. People are no longer wearing them correctly, and large groups are still being held. There was recently a large group of Edsel Ford sophomores and juniors holding a fake homecoming. Only once COVID gets better should we be allowed back to school, but the city and state government needs to be held accountable for all of this rapid news spread. Mrs. Nicole Assad of Dearborn. My child is in kindergarten and the at-home learning is not going well. While it may work for some families, it has not been easy for ours. We both work outside of the home. One of our caregivers does not speak English, so they cannot help her with any of the online work. I feel that my child is missing out on social, emotional development and skills that she would otherwise be learning. She needs the interaction with other children her age, not to mention the chance to play and just be a kid. I feel like the district needs to be at least try to go back in some format. The longer we wait, the more difficult it will be. Whether it's half days, alternate days, or a hybrid model, any in-person time is better than nothing at all. I get it. We need to be safe, but there are ways to go back safely, as many districts have already. Please consider the negative effects being home has had on our children, especially the little ones. Melanie Ward of Dearborn. Like many people tonight, I want to express my support for delaying the return to in-person learning. COVID-19 cases are on the rise across Michigan, the country, and the world. Michigan and the US set new daily case records in the past few days, and the 7-day average of cases in Michigan is over 400 cases higher than it was at the peak of the pandemic in April. When the decision was made in August to begin school virtually, the 7-day average in Michigan was less than half of what it is today. I am begging you to help stop the spread of COVID-19 by continuing to hold off on returning students to face-to-face instruction. Health and safety needs to be the #1 priority right now. Our staff deserve that, our community deserves that, and most of all, our children deserve that too. Thank you. Mrs. Baydoun of Dearborn. My son has had a difficult time with virtual learning. He has not been able to keep up. The teacher can't see the pace he is at, and he is scared to speak up. He is only 7. He has been in tears almost every day. He lives in fear while he is learning online, and his personality has weakened. I am so disappointed in our school board. Kids should be in school. We need to stop living in fear and have faith. You should give the option for those who want to be in person to be able to go in. If this doesn't happen soon, it's sad to say I will need to enroll my children in a private school. Anonymous says, again, just snippets from this. Please do your due diligence and keep these kids and teachers safe by remaining virtual for the remainder of this semester. These kids have already endured enough and been uprooted enough at this point. It is not fair to them to continue having things dangled in front of them. We're at the brink of the holiday season anyways, so why disrupt their learning by going back? Give these kids some consistency. I will not sign my kids up to the virtual academy and be locked in there for the year. I am also frustrated by the plans proposed at the last meeting. Ms. Lisa Jackson of Dearborn. Good evening, board members, superintendent, and staff. I am pleading with you today to not return to face-to-face teaching. The data states that coronavirus cases are on the uprise in Michigan and across the United States. It was stated back in June and July that we were going to have a devastating winter with coronavirus and the flu colliding. Unfortunately, due to the failure of many government officials, one of the richest countries in the world, the United States, has failed to get a handle on this pandemic. We have lost too many lives already. Please don't make the teachers and students of this district pay for the failures of this current government. If you send students and staff back now, you will have infections. Just look around at all the other districts that have went back to face. The data doesn't lie. Think about the potential lives that could be lost if you open back up right now, or the long-term health issues that could be inflicted on staff or students that might get the virus. Yes, we want our students back in school. We know the best way to educate students is with in-person learning, but right now the stakes are too high. Please don't be like other districts and open up because of self-motivating reasons, such as image or trying to make themselves look good. Please be a district that truly cares about its students and staff. Please act by making safety your top priority. It is always better to be safety than sorry. Your students and staff are counting you to do the right thing. Please vote to keep students and staff out of the classroom until it is safe to return. Many lives depend on your vote. Thank you. Mr. Ali, this is very selfish of you guys to keep the children out of school. Every parent should have the option whether or not to send their children to school. This virus will be here for a while. We have to learn to live with it. Please send the children back to school in person. This is going to delay our children in the future. Online learning is not going to help our children in the future. Dearborn students will always be behind now since this will take a toll on their future. So many districts are doing fine being in person. We live in a big city with a big population, so the numbers will stay in the way they are considering. There will always be gatherings and weddings. Will our students be the ones who suffer because our community will not stop? Let the kids go back to school. Michigan is allowing gatherings now, so allow the kids to be back in person learning. Mrs. Brianne Wilson of Dearborn. I am a teacher and my core member, writing, my core is in caps, member, writing from a district that has already gone back face-to-face. We constantly have students out on quarantine. We have already had to close an elementary school and a high school, and a colleague of mine became very ill. The strain on the staff is too much, and numbers are rising in Michigan. Do not return to face-to-face instruction. It is too soon. Eric Iwaskowitz of Dearborn. I greatly appreciate all the work that the administration and board has done to ensure the safety and quality of education for students in the district during these challenging times. I realize that the decisions the board is faced with making these days are extremely difficult, and especially appreciate each board member's willingness to serve our community in this way. Good leadership is always important, and that is especially true in the midst of a crisis. Two important elements of good leadership are clarity and transparency. My wife and I have 3 children in the district, and like many have found virtual schooling to be a struggle. As many have indicated, we believe the ideal setting for quality education is in the physical classroom. It is for this reason that we especially appreciated the in-person learning labs and the support they provided for both learning and socialization. We were therefore disappointed when it was announced that these would be suspended for the time being due to a rise in COVID cases throughout the city and state. And yet indoor athletics are continuing. It is confusing to us that in-person learning labs consisting of 3 masked kids socially distanced in a classroom are suspended, while our boys can show up for a basketball tryout with 20 plus other kids running around, sweating and making physical contact with each other in a poorly ventilated gym. Please help me understand the inconsistency here. It seems that if the district is comfortable enough with dozens of kids competing athletically indoors, then in-person small learning groups should then be okay as well. Could you please explain the rationale behind this decision? Beyond this example, I am sincerely hoping that the school board can provide a clear plan for moving forward towards in-person learning. After 8 months, it seems there should be a more defined plan for how the district is evaluating and assessing the viability of in-person learning. But given recent board meetings, it does not seem as if there is a clear plan other than revisiting the situation every few weeks. This is not healthy for families in the district. I would personally prefer an in-person option, but if the district decided to keep things virtually only throughout the end of the semester, at least there would be a more clear plan as opposed to just extending status quo every few weeks. I would ask that the board establish and communicate clear metrics for how they're deciding how to phase back into in-person learning. I would also ask that if the district is allowing in-person sports to continue, that they also consider reopening in-person learning labs. I again appreciate the significant leadership responsibilities that the board carries, and transparency and clarity are some of the most significant of those responsibilities. A lack of clarity leads to an erosion of trust and confidence in our elected leaders. It is my hope that our board can continue to build and maintain that trust during these uncertain times. Thank you for your service and for your consideration of these comments. Joseph of Dearborn. Summary here, because this again is an anonymous. Case numbers are rising again. We are nowhere near safe. I have missed many weddings, events, etc. because of the disease. I do not plan on catching COVID just because some people are so intent on hybrid learning. The plans for keeping schools safe will not work. It did not work in other districts in Michigan. Is online learning working well? No, but it is new and unfamiliar. It will get better. For me, it is getting better. My students and I developed routines and norms. We have built some measure of rapport. I believe they are learning. What will not get better are the families who lose a mother or father, brother or sister, or a student, teacher, or staff member to COVID. It is estimated that by closing down schools, 2 to 4% of deaths can be prevented. Even more people will not be vulnerable to the permanent effects of this disease because of school closure. Ms. Nora Mackey of Dearborn says, please open the schools. Peyton Marion of Dearborn writes, this will be my second time submitting a comment to the board. The first time I begged for student voices to be heard, especially senior students, and nobody ever responded to my comments. I think everyone is forgetting that decisions are being made for students without considering student opinions. We need to go back to school. There are other schools in our state making in-person school work. How can you say it's not possible if these schools are doing it? Online school is not enough, and it's failing not only students but teachers. Cameras don't have to be on, kids don't have to participate verbally. What is the point of attending school like this? The excuse that our numbers are rising is not enough anymore. If athletes can be on the same field or court sweating and less than 6 feet apart, then why haven't sports been stopped? Sports take place inside as well. If anyone is truly uncomfortable with coming back to school, then they should have the option to stay. But for those of us who not just desire but need to be back, let us come back. We are tired of being ignored. Anis Al-Jahmi of Dearborn. I'm a student attending Fordson High School. I've noticed that all my classes were behind and that some of my teachers have learning labs because they need more time for Zoom meetings. So I recommend that we let the teachers decide whether or not the students will be working in asynchronous or synchronous. Every day for every hour, all students show up to a Zoom meeting in the first 5 minutes of class. The teacher takes attendance and gives the instructions for an hour, whether that be a lesson on Zoom or independent work. They need to finish during the hour. This way we are consistent with schedules and every student knows that they should go to a Zoom meeting every day. This solves the problem of giving teachers more time, along with solving the problem of not knowing whether a day is A day or a B day, which can get really confusing. Mrs. Muna Masra of Dearborn. Dear board members, let me start by saying that at the last board meeting, I was dismayed as a parent at the district's inability to answer questions put forth by the board. Watching them pun question after question, I think she means punt here, question after question was difficult to watch. The district should have everything completely worked out before asking us to send our children back to school. They should present a detailed plan and not a skeleton framework that will need to be worked out during the 2-week window between a board voting yes and the openings of schools. We should not be asking parents to vote on if they would send their kids back to school when we parents have not received a detailed plan what this would look like and how the logistics would be worked out. Is anyone still there?
Yeah, we're here.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
If she needs a break, David's
The
ready.
board asked great questions and the district should have been prepared to answer all of them. Thank you for that. As for today, I ask that you please vote to continue with virtual learning. As a staff member and a parent of Dearborn school students, I hope that you continue to put the safety of our kids, families, and staff at the top. Do not rush to go back. I know Dearborn Schools likes to be the first at everything, so let us be the first at putting safety above all. The cases in Dearborn continue to be high, and we continue to see double-digit cases daily. 1024, 38 new positive cases, 1023, 14, 1022, 10, 1021, 27, 1020, 16, 1019, 20, 1018, 7 cases, 1017, 18 cases, 1016, 41 cases. We have only had 1 day of new cases in the single digits in the last couple of weeks. The climbing positivity rate has led to the closure of learning labs this past week yet again. Because of this, learning labs have not been consistent enough to use as a measure as to whether or not face-to-face is actually safe. Please do the right by the kids and truly put students first. Kids need consistency to progress academically and emotionally. The back and forth between opening and closing learning labs is not healthy for our students emotionally and does not lend to consistent structure for growth. Other districts have opted to be virtual until January and submit those plans monthly to the state. This would be in the best interest of our kids. Let's build on the distance learning we have and address deficiencies within the system rather than creating anxiety and chaos for children by continually changing things on them. The inconsistent nature of learning labs will be exactly what our hybrid model will look like if we go back all to the in-person learning and switches back to distance learning, a constant seesaw. Kids need stability. Give them that. Mrs. Juliana Umberger of Dearborn. Thank you, board members, for keeping the safety and health of students and staff your top priority. I am concerned about the inconsistency in what is considered safe regarding Psat testing this week at the high schools. Learning labs were canceled this week because they were deemed unsafe due to rising COVID cases. Learning labs include 3 students at a time for 3 hours per day. However, the PSAT is being administered this week, Tuesday and Thursday, and will include 7 to 10 students for 6 hours. All high school staff are required to report to make that happen. How is this safe? What can we do? Okay, Mrs. Maria Lograsso of Dearborn. Hello, I am a lead of the Michigan Caucus of Rank and File Educators and want to touch on the concerning high school PSAT event this week. Learning labs are suspended and remote learning is in effect. The community has been informed and many times comfortable with the teacher and 3 students for in-person learning labs. The PSAT is a required test for the state of Michigan, however. On September 11th, the Michigan Department of Education legalized a change from October testing to late January if the school district so chooses. I understand materials have likely been purchased for the test this week. However, at an estimated $11 student cost, I feel safety should be the priority and test materials should be ordered for January instead. Students were given the choice to come and take this test. Staff are being required to come in and be in 7 to 10 students, 2 staff member rooms. This is a health and safety hazard and must be addressed. The fear of staff is unacceptable and validated. A frustrated parent writes, my first grader at Long Elementary has had 4 teachers in 10 weeks we have been in school. It's like having the first day of school 4 times. There is no consistency at all. I am extremely worried about my child's education. I am left with the choice of homeschooling or trying Dearborn virtual. Mrs. Mohammed, who is a parent and teacher in the district, writes, how does the district plan on going into hybrid if we cannot even keep labs open? We need to be able to keep labs open before going open for 3 weeks and then canceled due to the local positivity rate. Also, the children need consistency. We don't want students to start school and then the schools shut down like local school districts. Canceling labs in the middle of the week confused many students, parents and students, especially teachers, volunteered to continue labs while other teachers canceled labs. Everyone needs to be on the same page and consistent. Teachers need time to plan accordingly if labs are going to be canceled. Students need to continue virtual learning and labs need to open up. Mrs. Meenakshi Mukherjee. Dearborn staff members should not be forced into buildings in the midst of this pandemic. Cases are rising and Dearborn is leading the count. Having staff members report to work and face exposure is negligent at best. We should be modeling for students what strong leadership and community care looks like right now, and in-person instruction is not it. Mrs. Brandy Ahmed of Dearborn. Good evening, board members, Board of Education members. First off, I would like to say thank you for taking on the challenges and pressure that has been involved in making the difficult decisions our district faces regarding COVID-19. During such uncertainty, I can imagine the weight this has put on your shoulders. Thank you for taking up that task. I have a few questions. Number 1, if we do return to some sort of face-to-face learning for all students, and a student falls ill with COVID-19 or comes in contact with someone who has the virus, how will that child proceed with their learning when face-to-face learning is in session, while they try to remain in quarantine for that 2-week period? Will teachers be expected to duo face-to-face learning and virtual learning? 2, the students who are in special programs such as STEM, DCMST, and early college. If a student has opted to do the virtual schooling for the year due to compromised immune systems, either for themselves or that of a loved one, or perhaps a loved one who is critically ill due to an illness outside of COVID-19, what would that mean for their participation in these programs for this school year? How will that affect their eligibility for the program for the next school year? For high school students, will the credits they've already received from these programs be honored? 3, is this district solely relying on parent honesty to follow through on temperature checks and keeping their child home if he or she does have a temperature? Or will teachers be able to check students as well as they enter their classrooms? Thank you for your time. Stay well and be safe. Dr. Jamie Goetz. The board needs to consider an integrated hybrid option where students with families who choose full-time, full-day on-site can have that, while those who elect to remain off-site can participate via camera, computer, much in the same way they have, but into the live classroom. This provides the same structure and content for all learners. While it will certainly have some hiccups, it solves issues of splitting students and compromising educational equity across modalities. Ms. Amy Fratkin of Dearborn. Please consider the burdens and any decisions you make on our teachers. They deserve a family work balance, and if the school has to quarantine students due to possible COVID exposure, how much extra work will they have to do? It's unrealistic to think teachers can manage both an online class for those quarantined and a hybrid class. We couldn't keep learning labs open. How can we even considering putting more kids in the schools? Amjad Monyedin of Dearborn. As a parent, I'm very frustrated. I am trying to make the best decision I can for my children. All my children are in middle school and high school. I believe it's not fair that I should have to make a decision if my children will attend school in person or VLP. We should be allowed time to make this decision when schools are really ready to be opened up. It's not fair to our children if we choose to put them in VLP and they are placed with new teachers. If the district decided to stay online, why can't the district place cameras in the classroom for students working from home? That will alleviate coming up with a new schedule, moving teachers around, and most importantly, it will give teachers and students some normalcy in these trying times. Crystal Paulson of Dearborn. My issues stem from the district teachers union and some members of the board. One is specifically reading my ticket. I don't feel that you, the district teachers and unions, are worried about our children's mental health. I feel that you guys push fear and use scare tactics by adding personal experiences. My son, who attends Nolan, his teacher pushed fear on my 8-year-old son. Is that fair? Absolutely not. My husband is a frontline worker. He actually worked during the real pandemic. He was exposed, our family was exposed, but we had to do what we needed to do to be done. And I might add, my husband, not our family, has ever tested positive. I have teachers emailing teachers, lives matter. Well, so does my kids, and especially their mental health. Frankly, my kids mean more to me because my children are victims. All of our children are the real victims right now because the district is failing them. It's hypocritical when we can still have our high school students play sports and ride buses to away games, but our kids can't even get lesson labs. It's hypocritical when I've seen pictures of certain board members and teachers at events that is considered mass gatherings and obviously no social distancing. Us parents are following the rules and enforcing our kids following them while stripping them from their childhood, while you and others don't need to follow the same rules. But blame the parents because we are the problem. No, you are the problem, not us. We just want our kids to be kids and have an education that our children deserve, regardless if you choose virtual or hybrid. Our children deserve the best education. They don't deserve teachers pushing fear or boo-hooing, especially to the children of the real frontline workers. You won't get sympathy from them. You will lose respect. Do you know how much parents are spending with our PTE water, and our never-ending grocery bill, while the district's sitting on your behinds and profiting. Parents had to quit their jobs to stay home because virtual is very demanding. Our families are feeling the pain when I look into our children's eyes every day. Sorry, we need to log in for school. We see our children suffering, you guys don't. We are also feeling the financial burdens of virtual while district is profiting. It's honestly disgusting and disturbing. The district is profiting while parents are trying to figure out how will get by. As of today, you lost another student because I couldn't watch my 8-year-old suffer anymore and have staff push faith with my child. My oldest son goes to Edsel. He's doing okay virtual, but he's sick of it and his frustrations grow daily. But he's a Thunderbird and wants to graduate as a Thunderbird. If I took that from him, I wouldn't forgive myself. My youngest son was supposed to attend the RISA preschool at Whitmore in December. I withdrew my son from an amazing program because of you, and the rest of the district staff are selfish, and I can't trust a selfish district with my baby. Our kids are not your political pawns. Start treating them as how they deserve. Kids who deserve the best from us and our community. Concerned parent. I am extremely concerned about the district reopening prematurely. I read daily about outbreaks in districts across Wayne and nearby counties, and I personally know 3 people who have contracted the virus this last weekend alone. It is running rampant. Please allow staff and students to remain safe at home and do not further disrupt the flow by opening just to have to close again. Mrs. Jamie Weiss of Dearborn. I was wondering if there are any online instruction available for kids who will miss school days for regular illnesses like common colds and allergies while they wait to see if it's COVID, or if the kids do get COVID. Mrs. Jessica Corbin of Dearborn. Why is no in-person instruction allowed, but sports are allowed where the players don't social distance or wear masks? Asmahan Masra of Dearborn. Dear board members, I have many concerns both as a parent and as a staff member. Last board meeting, I was very concerned and disappointed at the lack of clarity and the district's inability to answer questions that were asked by the board. Broad answers were continued to be given, generic statements, or even responses like "we will look into that" or "figure out," when in reality, very detailed answers should be provided to the board and its constituents, us, the parents and students. It is disheartening that the district's motto is students first, yet they have not come up with a detailed plan to show safety to those students and are in a rush to put both students and staff back into schools when cases are continuing to rise. Our city has continued to climb into double-digit COVID positive cases. We have stopped in-person learning labs multiple times and have not received enough data to make an informed decision on the hybrid model. As a staff member and parent, that concerns me because of the lack of consistency of learning labs. How are we as a district supposed to have in-person learning labs if we have not been able to hold learning labs consistently? Other districts in Michigan have extended virtual learning to January and have submitted plans to do so. I am wondering why we can't do that as well, especially with the increased positivity rates in our city. Please vote for virtual learning and safety of all involved. Thank you. Mr. Ramzi Al-Shohadi, dear board members, I hope that you continue to vote for virtual learning. The rates in Dearborn continue to rise, as does Wayne County positivity rates. Recently, the district halted learning labs again within a week of restarting them. This lack of consistency and continuous fluctuation is proof enough of a need for a commitment to virtual learning through the fall. As a parent, I am also dismayed that the district halts learning labs because it is not safe for our kids to be in the building, but then allows staff members to hold learning labs voluntarily. This jeopardizes our entire community. If it is not safe for kids to be in the building, then the decision needs to come from the district as a blanket, no learning labs, instead of an official statement with loopholes. If the district truly cares about our kids, they would not allow district staff to voluntarily risk our children's lives when they have deemed it unsafe. Also, in allowing teachers to choose to voluntarily keep labs open, you are creating a situation where parents will be frustrated and upset with teachers that chose to put the safety of our kids first, but following orders and not holding labs. Dearborn needs to make these and not allow for loopholes. Either in-person is safe for our kids or it is not. Based on the data right now, it is not safe for any child to be in person. Mr. Daniel Loudon of Dearborn. I am currently a senior at Edsel Ford High School. However, it certainly does not feel like it. A lot of the student body at Edsel Ford, including myself, feels neglected from the school. We don't feel wanted. It has been brutal trying to continue online without seeing my beloved classmates and teachers. Whether it's to improve my social and mental health by conversing with others or to be able to seek academic help from my peers, schools need to be in person. The many benefits outweigh the costs, so it is essential we attend school in person as soon as possible. Mr. Hugh Joss, what is your response to the lack of social distancing and masks at the Edsel Ford homecoming game? Amelia Tennant, I'm a member of a high school household here in Dearborn and a family member of a Dearborn teacher I know, respect, and understand that this district prides itself on being students first, and as a former district Dearborn student, I can appreciate that. However, I am worried that this board and district is not putting their teachers' mental and physical well-being at the forefront where it should be. Dearborn teachers love their jobs, but they are being held to astronomically high expectations that no one should be held to. If the school district returns to any type of in-person classes, you are asking teachers to put their and their families' safety at risk. Teachers who love their lives and their families just as much as their job. But you are forcing them to choose between the job they love and the health, safety, and financial welfare of the people they love, as well as themselves. I have appreciated the board's decisions in the past, but have been specifically disappointed in the board, especially one board member, for even entertaining the idea of returning to in-person classes and putting not only mine, but thousands of other families at risk. It is my hope that Dearborn schools begin to follow other districts in the state by making a final decision to proceed with fully remote learning for at least the rest of the semester. I know that this is an incredibly difficult and emotional decision for everyone involved, and not everyone will be pleased, but I have faith that you as the school board will protect all members of the Dearborn community, students and teachers alike, and not force your incredible and hardworking employees to potentially make the ultimate sacrifice. Sam Sala. Every guidance from our own federal government regarding safe social distancing during this pandemic has included 6 feet at a minimum. But guidance from this district is proud to taunt 3 feet? On what basis? Why are we treating DPS students and staff as science experiments and using half that distance as a means to an end? As long as the students fit into one classroom and school resumes, are we really good to go? I am also not understanding this rationale, nor am I feeling this, oh, well, so the show must go on at some point anyways, risk-taking attitude. We have to do better. Do it 100% safely or don't do it at all. My community is more valuable than that. Our families, our teachers, our students are not expendable. And if any of them are innocently ignorant, then shame on us because we do know better. Ms. Danielle Blamer, are there any specific guidelines, recommendations for Act 18 students that are currently face-to-face? If so, at what point and how will it be determined? Amal Farhad of Dearborn. How is it determined that it is okay for athletics to continue, but the district cannot provide learning labs in small groups to students with special needs? Also, the district should be ready to turn on the switch for in-person learning as soon as numbers come down. You've had the whole summer to plan this. Instruction should be happening early August, then shut down November to January. The district cannot practice, go with the flow. It's not fair to kids. Helen Hetrick of Dearborn. I am a sophomore at Edsel Ford High School. I have been a straight A student my entire life and have never struggled in school like I have in the past couple of months. My teachers have done the best they can, but the fact is online school is not working. I understand you are all worried about an outbreak among students and staff and are trying to make a good decision in a hard spot. I don't want to get COVID and I don't want to spread it to people I know, and nobody else does either. But the facts are that we are continually getting a better grasp on the situation and learning how to help people who get the virus. None of this is going to change anytime soon. Numbers will keep rising and falling, but at some point we have to move on with our lives. There is a system in place to monitor the spread, and students have the option to be online if they're not comfortable in person. I need an education. I need to be learning. The only way is going to be possible is back in school. The next ones I'm going to summarize. There are 5 that are anonymous. Community member writes, what happens if the school board decides to open schools for hybrid learning, but the parents at that time are not comfortable sending their kids? Will the virtual learning program be available at that time when that decision is made? Another concern is sending the youngest children, K to 2nd grade, first to school when they are least likely to keep a mask on. Also, the reality is not everyone is going to be honest and admit when their child has COVID-19. This is happening. Please take into consideration that many kids can be asymptomatic and will not have symptoms, which means they will not be tested, so tracing is difficult in this case. I'm going to the next sheet now, which is online. This is from not applicable, they say their name is. What happens if the school board decides to open schools for hybrid learning, but the parents at that time are not comfortable sending their kids? And it looks like that is that one.
I already read that.
I just read.
Next.
Yes, that's actually submitted. Okay, all right. I thought it might have been twice here. That was a community member. This is from not applicable. Decisions to get students back in school is a very important decision. Boards needs to leave politics out of the decision-making. Parents have a choice to keep their kids home, but the parents that want their kids to return learning have 0 choices. School districts around the state are returning to in-person. The children need their teachers, classmates, and structure for their mental health and social well-being. Please vote to get these students back in school. From a parent, COVID rates are high in Dearborn. This will only make things worse. Students are already consistent with online learning and used to the programs and their schedules. Shift will only make matters worse and unstable. If the case happens in the school, will the whole school shut down and students will need to go back to square one? This is a pandemic. Safety comes before anything else. From Mr. Paul Sandy, hospitalizations increased 20% since Friday, 3,000 plus cases per day, record numbers of cases. Why would you even consider sending people in person? From a teacher in the district, these comments are not representative of teachers and situations in the district and are not giving you an accurate picture of what it's really like. We are only given meager supplies and no training about their use and contact times to clean our own classrooms in between students. And when I didn't have students in person, my administrators came to guilt me. I was asked to literally convince parents to put their children in this dangerous situation. And I'm sorry, I refused to do that. From Anonymous, please do your research and make sure the staff understands what actually qualifies for someone not to wear a mask. There's a lot of misinformation out there. The ADA in almost all cases recommends masks. That is 55 comments.
Thank you very much, Secretary Lane. Okay.
Thank you.